Have you ever looked at your health insurance bill and just wondered, why is this so expensive? You're not alone. Americans pay far more for healthcare and insurance than people in any other developed country. But what are we actually paying for? Is it better care? Or is something else going on? Today, we're diving deep into the real reasons why your health insurance premiums are and trust me, the answers might surprise you. Let's start with the system itself. The U.S. healthcare system is a complex maze of private insurers, government programs, hospitals, and doctors, all with their own rules and paperwork. This isn't just confusing. It's incredibly inefficient. A huge chunk of what you pay in premiums doesn't go to your doctor or for your medicine. Instead, it gets eaten up by administrative costs. Think about it. Every time you visit a doctor, a claim is filed. That claim has to be coded, submitted, processed, and paid. This involves a ton of back and forth between your doctor's office and the insurance company. Studies have shown that these administrative overheads account for a much larger portion of healthcare spending in the U.S. compared to countries with simpler, single-payer systems. We're talking about billions of dollars spent every year just on paperwork and bureaucracy. Then there are the costs of medical tests and procedures. Ever wonder why an MRI costs a few $100s in one country, but can cost thousands in the U.S.? It's not because the machines are fancier here. A big part of it is the practice of defensive medicine. Doctors, worried about potential lawsuits, often order more tests and procedures than are medically necessary. Who's to be saved? While this might seem like thorough care, it drives up costs significantly. Each extra test is another bill for your insurance company. And guess who ultimately pays for that? You do, through higher premiums. The lack of transparent pricing also means hospitals can charge wildly different amounts for the same exact service, and you often don't know the cost until you get the bill. It's like shopping in a supermarket with no price tags, and you only find out the total at the checkout. Now, let us talk about something that affects every single one of us who has ever needed a prescription. Drug prices. In most other developed countries, the government negotiates with pharmaceutical companies to set fair prices for medications. This keeps costs under control. In the United States, however, Medicare, one of the largest buyers of drugs, is legally prohibited from negotiating prices directly with drug manufacturers. This gives pharmaceutical companies free rein to set whatever prices they want. The result? Americans pay, on average, 2 to 3 times more for the exact same brand-name drugs than people in other countries. You might have heard stories of people traveling to Canada or Mexico to buy insulin for a fraction of the U.S. price. This isn't an exaggeration. It's the reality of our unregulated drug market. These inflated drug costs are a massive expense for insurance companies, and they pass that cost directly onto you in the form of higher monthly premiums and copays. Another major factor is the increasing consolidation within the healthcare industry. Over the past few decades, we've seen a wave of mergers and acquisitions. Hospitals are buying up smaller practices in other hospitals, and insurance companies are merging to become larger and more powerful. When one or two large hospital systems dominate a region, they have what's called market power. They can essentially dictate prices to insurance companies because the insurers have no other choice but to include them in their network. If the insurer says no, their customers lose access to the main hospitals in their area. So, the hospitals charge more, and the insurance companies, in turn, raise your premiums to cover these higher costs. The same thing happens with insurance companies. When there are only a few major players in a state, there's less competition, which means they have less incentive to offer lower prices or better plans. It's a classic case of supply and demand, but in this scenario, the consumer has very little power. This profit-driven model treats healthcare not as a fundamental right, but as a commodity to be bought and sold for the highest possible price. Finally, there's a concept called adverse selection. In a voluntary insurance market like ours, this becomes a real problem. Here's how it works. Health insurance is most attractive to people who know they're going to need IT people with chronic conditions or those who are older. They are more likely to sign up. On the other hand, young, healthy individuals might look at the high monthly premiums and decide to take their chances and go without insurance. They think, I'm healthy, I probably won't need it, and choose to save the money. When this happens, the pool of people insured becomes, on average, sicker and more expensive to cover. The insurance company now has a group of high-cost patients and not enough low-cost healthy patients to balance it out. To stay profitable, they have to raise premiums for everyone who is still in the pool. This can create a vicious cycle, where rising premiums cause even more healthy people to drop their coverage, which in turn drives prices even higher for those who remain. The Affordable Care Act tried to address this with the individual mandate, which required most people to have insurance. But since that was effectively repealed, adverse selection is once again a growing concern. So, let's recap. Why are you overpaying for your health insurance? It's not just one thing. It's a perfect storm of factors. We have a complex and inefficient system bogged down by administrative waste. We have unregulated drug prices that are the highest in the developed world. We have a profit-driven industry where mega hospitals and giant insurers have the power to set exorbitant prices. And we have a system where healthy people opting out can drive up costs for everyone else. It's a deeply flawed system that prioritizes profits over patients. Understanding these root causes is the first step toward demanding change and advocating for a healthcare system that is more affordable, efficient, and accessible for everyone. It's a complex problem, but it's not an impossible one to solve. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful and informative, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to ring the bell so you won't miss our next deep dive. What are your experiences with health insurance costs? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.